Hello everyone and welcome to round 3 of the ARL F1 2013 Season 7 Championship. It's the Chinese Grand Prix. We're going around the Shanghai International Circuit today. I'm Matthew Gallagher, and joining me for the first time in the commentary box, this is a very special occasion. It's Fisi Fan 91.
Hello guys, it's Fisi here, and for the first time commentating on one of these ARL races that I've been editing for quite a while now. So it's a pretty interesting occasion for me, and we'll see how that goes. But obviously, as you can see on the screen, we're going around China today, and it's a very it's a track that is hated by many drivers and also loved by many other drivers. So no idea what to expect really. I'm just hoping for a good race.
Scott unfortunately couldn't be with us today as he has prior arrangements, but the Season 6 podium, as you can see on your screen, Noble299 taking the victory from xMattyG in second, with Big Shot Player taking the final podium position. Season 6 pole position was also Noble with a 132.3. Let's find out what happened in qualifying this season.
Welcome everyone to the qualifying comparison for the Chinese Grand Prix. We've got the Williams pairing of Noble2909 on the left and xMattyG on the right, tackling this challenging circuit. Turn 1 is up first, chucking the car in and using the engine braking as effectively as possible to help slow the car down as they run out wide, before bringing the car back to the inside to hit the apex of turn 2 and dropping down the hill into turn 3. Slowly applying the throttle as best they can on the exit with a dose of Kerr's Boost 2 as the track opens up on the run down to turn 5 and the end of the first sector. At the apex of turn 6, it's Matty fractionally ahead as they now look to plant the power on the exit. Quite bumpy, so avoiding wheel spin is reasonably hard. Both drivers managing it okay as they now come into the high speed section of the track. The left is full throttle, grabbing 6th and staying left on the exit before flicking the car right, down 3 gears and then hugging the curb on the inside, back to 4th before another change of direction into this double left. It's actually starting to rain on Noble's screen as his lap is being done at the very end of this session, but it shouldn't affect him for the rest of the lap as it's not quite intense enough to cause problems for the dry tyres. The freeze frame showing both drivers still pretty much identical on these laps so far as we're now into the final sector. The most important part of the track for sure is this long banked right hander onto the back straight, so very key to minimise wheel spin and maximise your run out of there to ensure you're carrying as much speed down this straight as possible as we now head into what will surely be the scene of many an overtake in the race, the turn 14 hairpin. Both drivers running the same 7th gear ratio by the looks of things, is now braking at the 100 metre board down into first before trying to get the straightest run out as we head towards the final corner. Heading over to the right hand side of the track before chucking the car in, down to 3rd, and then we'll be activating DRS again briefly just before the line, and it's Noble coming out on top in another qualifying teammate comparison. The margin this time around a 10.5 as Noble and Matty make it to a Williams front row lockout here in China.
Thank you very much, Harry, for that lovely qualifying comparison, and now we're moving on to the qualifying session classifications for the Chinese Grand Prix. And as you saw, it's a Williams front row lockout, with Noble taking another pole position this season, a 10.5 ahead of his teammate xMattyG. On the second row of the grid we have the Irishman RickeeyC with a good qualifying performance from him, just ahead of TRL MoNsTeR, and those two only separated by 1,000 of a second. You literally can't get any closer than that. The third row sees the second Toronto of F1 X360 and also the second McLaren of Random X Grande, both of those 6 and a bit tenths of pole position. Then Fisi Fan 91 bouncing back from a pole qualifying in Malaysia to take 7th here ahead of Big Shot Player in the Ferrari. HyperX Callum and TraceMe92 take up the 5th row of the grid, ahead of 2 of the new boys, TRL Qualy and Jason97 F1. And it's worth pointing out that 7th place down to 12th only separated by 2 tenths of a second. Then at the back of the grid, the contadins and xMattyG in 13th and 14th place, and then rounded out by TRL Schumacher in the Mercedes. They all qualified on the option tyres, but contadins will be the only man to start on the primes. Then Ryan L83 the only driver not to show for this race, so it's a packed grid once again. Let's see what happens in the race.
It's race time. It's the Chinese Grand Prix. It's xMattyG and Fisi Fan 91 commentating for you today on this light cloud weather. 0% chance of rain, so absolutely no wet weather tyres needed today, Fisi. Who's your money on?
Well, money for most of the people I would assume is on Noble, because he's won the first 2 races and he's on pole here today, but 15 drivers on the grid who want to do something about that, so we'll see what happens, Matt, as the lights are about to come on.
Here they come now. We've got 2. We've got 3 lights. We've got 4. Now we have 5. And they are out and away we go. On board with TRL MoNsTeR in 4th place, getting a reasonable launch. Coming towards turn 1 now. RickeeyC using slightly a bit more curves to the outside. Trying to look round the outside of MoNsTeR with Randy making slight contact with MoNsTeR and going up the inside here. So he's up into P3 at the moment. Now forced to the outside for turn 2. And MoNsTeR just about managing to hold on, it looks like. But Randy hanging it round the outside now. And MoNsTeR almost losing his back end. And Randy now coming up the inside. It's 3 abreast going down towards turn 3.
Yeah, incredible clean start off an incredible start for Randy, who's gone from P6 to P3 in only something like 4 corners, and he's now secured that 3rd place by going ahead of MoNsTeR, and Fisi going back past Big Shot, who passed him at the exit of turn 3, I believe, and is now back up to 7th place. Callum has gone very wide there, and contadins caught right up the back of him. So Callum not had a great start, because I think he was ahead of Trace at one point, but dropped back behind because of that. And RickeeyC now looking at the back of MoNsTeR as we come toward the 3rd sector of the 1st lap. Randy then in P3 looking pretty good so far. Fisi looking right at the back of RickeeyC. Obviously these top 6 at the moment had quite a bit of a gap down to the rest of the field in qualifying, so you'd expect those to probably start pulling away, but don't know what you think, Matt. Top 6 probably in a league of their own?
We shall see. It's lap 1 at the moment, so I think Fisi in 7th, so not in that top 6 at the moment. Is he going to have a look at RickeeyC into the hairpin? He's too far back, but Big Shot's having a look into the hairpin. Oh, it's not Big Shot at all. That's TRL Qualy in the Mercedes, and Fisi just about managing to hold on. Does it? It looks like he's got the inside line for the final corner. Is Qualy going to look round the outside? Yes, he is, and he makes it stick. A brilliant move there from the Mercedes driver. And now Trace, Fisi's teammate, now looking to the outside now towards turn 1 at the start of lap 2. And Trace, surely he's not going to hang it round the outside here. Fisi holding the inside line now and possibly having a look back at Qualy, as we've now got the contadins in the Sauber thinking he's going to try and take a few positions with all these guys squabbling in front of him, but he's having to settle down in 10th place at the moment as we now move to TRL MoNsTeR, getting very close behind Randy, and there was contact, and RickeeyC's hit MoNsTeR as well. So a Toro Rosso hitting the back of a McLaren, and then a McLaren hitting the back of the Toro Rosso. So a bit of argy-bargy going on at the moment, and now we've got a replay of RickeeyC going towards turn 1 on lap 1, Fisi.
Yeah, and he got a great launch off the line actually, already side by side with Matty as we come into turn 1, but he's got the outside line, so Matty will have the advantage heading into the second part of the 1st corner, and as you can see he was still ahead, so RickeeyC managed to stay there and obviously drop back later on, as Randy had a great start, and he had the inside line, so managed to get an inside of MoNsTeR, obviously on the outside for this one, but he managed to hold it around there, and be alongside and on the inside of MoNsTeR going down to turn 6, which then secured his move up to P3. And then contadins from the back area view, pretty clean. Obviously Callum went a bit on the grass there, but not too much contact. There a clean start, but then Jason spins off to the left and just probably dropped back to last, I would imagine. Fisi then got passed by Big Shot out of that corner and then took the place back when he got a better exit out of turn 6. So a decent start from Fisi as well, holding position.
Yeah, it was interesting there. Fisi using some of his curves to get back through Big Shot as Callum gets a right roasting into the hairpin by I'm not too sure who that was.
I think that was Maisie.
It was Maisie. So Maisie missing his braking point at the start of this race. Not used to having 28 laps of fuel on board, I am sure. So I'm guessing he will have given the position back to Callum. And that's not particularly ideal at the start of the race for those two, as MoNsTeR looks like he's lagging slightly, but this straight is known for having slight connection issues, and I'm sure the drivers will have to be wary of that, especially if they're in the slipstream like MoNsTeR is now, with Randy going to the inside now towards the hairpin. Will he make it stick? No, he's made a little bit more contact with Randy. So these two, or three even, getting very close. RickeeyC now going to the outside towards the final corner. MoNsTeR getting a better run out of the hairpin and forcing him slightly wide, but RickeeyC nowhere to go, then locks his brakes as he had his wheels on the curb and losing a position to F1 XCRICKey. So down into 6th now for RickeeyC. A poor start for him considering he qualified 3rd and was in 2nd going towards turn 1. As we now come to contadins in the Sauber, with Noble setting a 37.3 fastest lap. And contadins, he's gone up a place. I'm not too sure if that's because of contact on the previous lap, but he's all over Trace and Fisi, who's just ahead.
Yeah, I think Big Shot went wide on that hairpin when Callum got hit, so that's why contadins got ahead of him. And a great battle going on with those 3 or 4 cars in the midfield at the moment. But here back to the front then, Matty's still trying to his best to hold on to the back of Noble, who we'll be looking to pull away like he did in the last race in Malaysia when he got quite a massive gap, obviously after we had that wet weather period. But Matty's still doing well to hold on within a second at the moment, and he'll have the DRS obviously on the next straight now, as he's lap 3. So he just needs to get a good exit out of this long right-hander, because that is key to be able to make an overtake on that straight. And contadins, as you can see, we'll probably be looking to do the same thing on Trace and Fisi the Red Bulls ahead. And like I said earlier, as you can see, the top 6 have already started to create a bit of a gap down to the midfield, as the midfield are just battling between themselves now. But Matt, as you can see, wasn't close enough to make it past a Noble on that occasion. MoNsTeR also not close enough to Randy. So stations are being held for the time being.
Yeah, as Matty now diving into the pits for a very early pit stop and going into the gravel. So not being able to slow that car down on those worn tyres and dipping his car into the gravel, which would have cost him a little bit of time to Noble. And I'm sure he's trying to go for the undercut right now. So any piece of time that he can get is crucial, because Noble looking very strong indeed out in front at the moment. But it's going to be interesting as the Williams driver leaves his pit garage to put on a set of prime tyres. I think most people will be switching to the primes for a three-stop strategy, all the prime tyres if they did start on the options. And I wouldn't be surprised if everybody else dives into the pits on this next lap. But Matty's he's got a bit of free track in front of him, with MoNsTeR coming out a few seconds back as well. So these two are really going to have to try and make an impact on the cars ahead, such as Noble and Randy and RickeeyC, who have all stayed out on their worn option tyres. Noble, you can see, understeering tremendously through this double left-hander and struggling for traction as well as he puts it up into rich fuel mixture, knowing that this is a crucial part in the race for Noble. He really wants to stay ahead of his teammate and not let him build a gap, because with a bit warmer tyres, Matty will be rapid as Noble comes out of the pits. As you can see, his front left suffering quite a bit, and coming to Randy, it looks like his tyres are even worse, with his front left and both of his rear tyres looking particularly orange and almost red now, with Contadins up into 5th place, having people already stopped and now coming right behind Fisi. So I'm assuming Trace, his teammate, has pitted, and now Contadins putting a lot of pressure on Fisi, looking up the inside now. Slight bit of lag, as I mentioned, but here we go, up the inside now. Fisi hanging it round the outside, and will he make it stick? It's very close indeed. Contadins squeezing him as much as possible. Fisi, I'm sure, will probably dive into the pits now. Contadins carrying on as he's on the prime tyres, so showing some decent pace in that Sauber, and he's now coming under pressure from Jason as Noble comes into the pits.
Yeah, Contadins obviously the only man to start on the prime tyre, so he'll be inheriting the lead now, as he's still carrying on out on track. But Noble there, a decent pit stop from the Williams crew as well as the McLaren. Slightly delayed for the Red Bull crew there, because there was a Mercedes coming through, but here, this is crucial. Matty just behind Noble as Noble comes out of the pit lane. So he managed to get closer to Noble, but not quite to make the undercut completely. But now we have a RickeeyC side by side with Randomax is that RickeeyC actually? I believe it's RickeeyC, and
yes,
he's just managed to stay ahead by sweeping around the outside of 10-1. So that's a good move by RickeeyC there, and as you can see there, Matty right at the back of Noble, so he'll be probably slightly disappointed that he couldn't make the undercut, pull off the undercut and get ahead of Noble in the pit stops, but he's certainly close enough now to try to make a move on the DRS straight, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's following just behind his teammate now, and yeah, as you say, I'm sure he would have been disappointed, because what the drivers have been finding with the sort of practice that they've been doing is that even pitting one lap earlier than the car ahead, although it will help with the undercut, there is a slight performance distance, well, you would think, with an extra lap around this track. As Randy going straight into the gravel, doing what Matty did, a lot more extreme. And who's that? That's RickeeyC. They're side by side into the pits there. Who's going to get the best of it? Randy just about managing to get away with it. RickeeyC almost trying to take advantage of Randy's mistake. And this is the replay of Noble just coming out of the pits ahead of his teammate. And as I was saying, sorry, the difference in lap time, just between one difference in pit stop, sorry, is about 3 to 4 tenths. So Noble should have an advantage on his teammate throughout the rest of this stint if he can hold on. As I say that, he's running wide out the hairpin, and Matty's now going to have a run, because there's a DRS zone down this straight. He's put it up in the rich fuel mixture now. Noble going around the final corner, also missing the apex there. So Matty, this is his chance to get past Noble. We haven't seen this at all this season so far, and he has taken what is the net lead for now. Noble having to settle back behind his teammate, and this is crucial for Matty. If he wants to make his strategy work, he's going to have to keep his teammate behind, which is definitely easier said than done, Fizzy.
Yeah, it's definitely easier said than done. Noble, obviously, the most dominant driver so well in F1 history, to be honest, and he's obviously on one lap fresher tires as well, but Matt's tires obviously won't have been starting to wear already, so he'll be fine for the time being. But Noble will be looking to stay on the back of him, most likely, and try to see if we can get him back in the DRS zone. But Rickie now running decent down in P6, close to his teammate as well, so we got a few teammate battles going on. Obviously the Williams drivers battling for the lead, as you can see again here, and yeah, look at Noble just biding his time now. He's putting it back down to standard mix and waiting to pounce with DRS, as he's just trying to stay on the back of Matty, going through this long right hand. Now he's pushed up to rich mix again, and just controlling the wheels the slide. The back end wants to step out constantly as he goes through that corner, and now he's using yeah, not all of his curves, to be honest, but a sufficient amount to get him close, as we now got DRS. He's got full faceful sparks from Matty's car in his face, but now he ducks to the inside, going into the hairpin. Can he hit the braking point? Matty, ooh, looks like he's going to go for the cutback. Matt's got a slightly better exit out of the hairpin, I think, but Noble will obviously have the inside line for this corner, and he's ahead as they start turning in, and Matty just runs a little bit wide to make sure he doesn't hit the back of Noble there. So Noble stays ahead. That could I'm not sure Matty will be too happy with that, to be honest, to lose the lead already.
No, I mean, one lap, and Noble didn't like the fact that he wasn't in what is a net first place, so he's retaken the lead, or what is technically the lead, from his teammate. And who's that? That's Trace, is that going up the inside of his... No, that's Fisi going up the inside of... Who was that? I didn't see that.
Up the inside of Trace. So,
up the inside of Trace, right, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
And Matty now behind Noble once again, and he's going to try and stick within the DRS zone of his teammate, as Rickie fighting very hard with Crookie. Crookie being squeezed out of room there by Rickie, and just about managing to get away with it, I think. Crookie managed, as you can see with the arrows, he's still right behind the McLaren driver, as Matty now still within the DRS zone, it looks like, but you can see he's still struggling already on his tyres, and you can see Noble getting much better traction out of the corners. 8/10 the gap, and slightly running wide there through that corner, and just trying to get on the power, as you can see, just squirming, trying to get those rear tyres planted so he can get the traction, and off he goes down the straight, as Rickie looks like he's going to come under immense pressure from Crookie, who looks like he's got a brilliant run through the long right-hander and is almost past him already, and we're not even halfway down the straight yet, and Crookie's going to have DRS as well. Rickie saving some of his curves, potentially for the exit of the hairpin. I'm surprised he's not staying in the slipstream. There he goes, he's in the slipstream now. Will he use his curves out of this hairpin, or will he use it? Oh, as Contadins goes into the gravel as well. All the drivers struggling to get into the pits without any sort of harm to their car. And Matty now 1.1 seconds back now, so Noble setting the fastest lap of the race and extending his lead out in front as Contadins comes into the pits. Will he put on the option tyres, or will he put... Yes, he will. He's going to put on the option tyres already. So that's an interesting strategy, because I think most drivers, Fisi, if they do start on the primes, tend to go on the option tyres at the end of the race.
Yeah, I would have thought that he might want to do that, but it looks like West Callum just sweeps around the outside there to get into 12th place. But yeah, Contadins obviously looking to get that option seat out of the way early, because maybe he doesn't think it will benefit him enough at the end. Maybe he thinks he'll be too far back if he does that. So he's back down in 13th place on the option tyres, and we'll be hoping to gain some positions on this particular stint on the faster side. But now Fisi has locked his tyre there on the curb and gone wide, which has put his teammate Trace behind to right back behind him, and going into the DRS on that's not a good place to have a car right behind. Oh, as you can see there, Jason and Trace mounted too, side by side down the straight behind Fisi. Oh, with a bit of lag going on. Of the Red Bull just pretty much invisible as he passes Fisi, and he's just getting absolutely done there. Two cars up the inside into the hairpin. Trace ahead, and Jason just about pulls the move up as well. So Fisi dropped from 7th place down to 9th, and he will not be happy with that, as we are reaching the end of lap 8.
So now Randy having the DRS right behind TRL MoNsTeR at the moment. So these two battling once again, as they did in Malaysia, for 3rd and 4th this time. So not 2nd and 3rd, but they're still fighting for a place on the podium, which I'm sure they both will dearly want, as the two Williams drivers have well and truly left the pack here this afternoon, unless either of those have any sort of woes and fall back into the pack. But those two drivers have put quite a bit of practice in and have good consistency round here. So I wouldn't be surprised if these two just streak off even further, as Fisi right behind Jason now. He's lost 2 positions in the last lap. He's now going to try and get back those positions on lap 9, as Randy now right behind MoNsTeR once again. He's going to probably wait until the DRS MoNsTeR running wide. Not too sure why. I think he probably could have stayed on the track there, but he decided to not turn for whatever reason, as MoNsTeR running slightly wide now, compromising his exit onto the long right-hander. As you can see, Randy right behind him, almost wheel banging his right rear wheel to his front left. And Randy now is going to have DRS and a whole bar of curves to use, and I wouldn't be surprised if he flies past TRL MoNsTeR now. Here we go, in the slipstream, not even open DRS, and he has a huge speed difference, and it just helps him out to just fly past and lag a little bit as well on TRL MoNsTER's screen. MoNsTER still with +1 lap of fuel, so not pushing on too hard, and maybe just thinking about the end of the race rather than this part in particular, as Trace and Jason getting very close indeed round the hairpin, and Trace just about managing to hold on to 7th place. Jason looking very, very fiery at the moment and trying to get past Trace. It's his debut season in F1, but he is not afraid to make some moves, as MoNsTER now looking behind Randy, trying to get that position back at the start of lap 10.
Yeah, as you put out, Jason not afraid to fight with the big boys in his first season F1. He obviously won the GP2 last season, so he knows what he's doing. And he's wobbling a bit all over the place out that corner, but still managed to pull away from Fisi, who just understeered wide. MoNsTER almost hit the back of Randy again through turn 6, but now we have a replay of a Contadins, who is going to the inside of Callum on his fresh option tyres. And will he be able to pull this move off? The side-by-side entering the straight. Obviously, the Contadins will have the DRS, and as you can see there, with the speed difference, he managed to get the move done. So Contadins up to 12th place, and now back onto the DRS straight here. And McAuley had a Contadins now running very wide indeed, and it's going to be a carbon copy. Contadins going up the inside through the long right-hander, taking another place there on his options. So he's making the best of the option tires at the moment, and now Fisi wants to get a place back. He obviously lost 2. Not too far long ago, but now he wants to get back to the inside of Jason, going towards the hairpin. Got to spot the braking point around 100 meters. Hit the apex. Ooh, pretty much parked his car there. But Jason gets a better exit. Ooh, just lots of wheel spin for Fisi. I think his tires are starting to wear off. As you can see, pretty much orange, and he allows Jason to go around the outside of him there. So wasn't too much he could do to defend there once he lost confidence in the tires. But we got TRL MoNsTER now into the pit lane, so the first of everyone to pit for the 2nd time in this race, and his tires were also pretty shot, so he'll be putting fresh prime tires on. Decent pit stop from Toro Rosso boys, and maybe he can make the undercut work on Randy. I can't remember if he was ahead or behind, but we were certainly close to him. And Contadins trying to gain another position on Big Shot. You're using a bit of curves to get the inside line going up the turn. Oh, a little bit went off the track there, so that's a completely clean move, but we'll let him off for now, and he gets the move done on Big Shot. Didn't really gain too much of an advantage really from doing that anyway, so it's alright. Matty now, oh, as you can see, quite a bit of gap that Noble's pulled out, so looks like Noble might be in for another winner, Matty.
Yeah, Noble pulling away from his teammate, and I was just going to say, MoNsTER's pitting very early indeed. Lap 11, so really he's going to be pushing it extremely hard, as Matty coming in a lap later than MoNsTER, coming on for another fresh set of prime tyres, so he's going to try and get the undercut once again on Noble and maybe try and close that gap. But as you saw throughout the rest of the stint, Noble just created an even bigger of a gap. So as Matty now getting held up in the pits as well, 4.8 second pit stop I think that was. So Matty's afternoon is going from bad to worse in terms of fighting for the victory. And look at this, is this MoNsTER on his fresh prime tyres, and that's Matty just ahead of him now. So the Williams driver having a few issues, and now TRL MoNsTER in the Toro Rosso is right behind Matty and is well within the fight for 2nd place now. However, it's exactly how it is with Matty and Noble, but Matty will have a 1 lap fresher set of tyres than MoNsTER, so it's going to be potentially a carbon copy of what happened with Matty and Noble. But if MoNsTER can stay within the DRS zone, he's in rich fuel mixture as well, just putting it down to standard now for the sort of slower part of the section of the track. But if he can stay in the DRS zone, then he could be looking at 2nd place at the moment. So MoNsTER managing to salvage at the moment at least some sort of hope for 2nd place by doing the undercut and running very wide again through that corner, struggling quite a bit. MoNsTeR just not getting the ideal line, going purple through the middle sector, and he will have DRS on the Williams driver as Contadins is in 5th place at the moment, and his tyres have gone off, and he's going to have to go for some prime tyres. He's only been in the pits about a few laps ago, but because he put the options on, he has to come in again. As Noble dives into the pits, has no such mistakes as we've seen from other drivers going into the gravel. He stays completely on the track, as Contadins managing to hit that apex beautifully despite the tyre wear that he is suffering from. As MoNsTeR had DRS but couldn't get near Matty into the hairpin, as Noble, Matty's teammate, dives into the pits for a fresh set of prime tyres. No such worries for him in terms of waiting a 3.2 second pit stop. Randy in the pits as well for McLaren, and also Fisi in the pits for a fresh set of primes.
Yeah, obviously these guys have pitted 1 lap later than most of the other guys. There was a trio in the midfield of Jason, Contadins and Fisi, and it'll be crucial for them to see where Trace comes out, because he was close with them before the pit stops as well. But yep, here we have Trace actually is sweeping around the outside of Jason through turn 1 and to turn 2, and he's made that move stick, going full speed into turn 1 around the outside of Jason, who came out of the pit lane. And that's a beautiful move from Trace to get up to 7th place, I believe that was. And now another teammate battle of RickeeyC versus Randy McSpanny in the McLarens. RickeeyC kind of tapping the back of Randy, but no harm done. As Jason now runs very wide on turn 6, and it looks like Fisi's got a better exit, so he might have just gained a position there. He has going into those left to right long corners, and Contadins following them closer as well. So very close battle in the midfield, and also close battle for second place with MoNsTeR, who certainly made undercut work by pitting a lap earlier than Matt, but now he's struggling quite a bit through that long right-hander, which is obviously the longest, well, not the longest, possibly the longest as well, but the most difficult corner on the track for all these drivers. I personally hate it. So yeah, as you can see there, I wasn't doing too well. So lost a bit of ground though, Fisi, to his teammate, so we won't be able to get past him with DRS on that occasion. And MoNsTeR still close behind Matty, but still not close enough to have DRS move. So it's kind of starting to spread out a bit, it looks like, but I think I'm sure we'll see some more battling going on.
Yeah, it's been overtakes galore the first half of this race, and it's now sort of settling down a little bit. The drivers, as you say, are starting to create gaps between each other, as Matty sets the fastest lap of a 35.8, trying to pull away from MoNsTeR, who had that brilliant undercut combined with Matty's slow pit stop, and he also had a lag spike, which unfortunately was not on his footage. But still just not really going too well for the Williams driver, who looked like he could have possibly challenged Noble at the start of the race, and now Noble has that all too familiar gap that he has pulled out in the last 2 races, and now in this race as well, as Fisi coming up behind his teammate Trace and understeering through this long right-hander. Really couldn't get on the optimum line, but he's still going to have, well, he's used up all of his KERS, but he's going to have DRS as well, as Noble hits the bollard, taking a massive chunk out of that, and then sliding around the final corner for good measure. So Noble risking it slightly on the apex of that corner by hitting the bollard, and hopefully the bollard doesn't restrict any other drivers coming round. Let's have a look, let's see if the bollard is anywhere on their screens. It's definitely not on the corner, but it's nowhere near the racing line. So the driver's getting away with it, as Fisi has now got DRS on his teammate Trace, and he's looking up the inside into turn 1. He's not going to go around the outside, he's going to take the more conventional line up the inside and takes 7th place away from his teammate. These two having a brilliant battle here today for 7th and 8th positions, as RickeeyC looks like he is quite far down the road at the moment, trying to battle with Randy. And it looks like Jason and another car, I'm not too sure who that is, but those guys look like they want to get involved for the sort of lower points end of finishes. So 6.7 seconds the gap to Ricky. Trace only a 10th back, and it looks like, I hate to say it, it's a 4-way horse for 7th place at the moment. Yes, I know, I'm sorry about that, as Trace is now going to have DRS on Fisi this time, and I wouldn't be too surprised, or let's hope for Fisi's sake that he doesn't get double overtaken like he did last time. But it doesn't look like, oh no, Trace has actually dropped back slightly coming down this straight, but he will have the DRS, and he's probably used all of his KERS as well. Here he comes, Fisi going defensive to the inside. Trace, surely he's not going to look around the outside. He has you can see he's slightly gaining on the braking point. Looks like Jason is that going up the inside of Trace potentially. Looking back, Fisi very kindly for the cameras, but Trace just managing to hold on to 8th.
Yeah, obviously Trace is his teammate, but he doesn't want to let him through, because they look very close on pace so far this season in the Red Bull. So it could be a season-long interesting teammate battle going on in that team. As we now got a random extra in the back of Crookie, so he's managed to catch up to Crookie in the last few laps, and will now be looking to pass him with DRS on this main straight, as the Torosso, the mirrors of that Torosso just flashing in around his eyes there as he went through that right hand, and he's pretty much passed him before he even opens DRS, because he used all of his curse, and Crookie pulled him back into his slipstream, but the DRS will be too powerful for him, and Randy has got 4th place in the bag for the time being. And it looked like his teammate Ricky had dropped a little bit back actually, a couple of seconds maybe, if I'm not too mistaken, just looking at the minimap there. And I don't know if he's just struggling with his tires or what, but it's coming to the lap now where people will be starting to pit quite soon, I reckon, probably in 1 or 2 laps. So
I think he just dived into the pits there, so he's going for a very long stint at the end of this race. And it's quite interesting because I think the optimal strategy was to pit on lap 4 and then lap 13 I think it was, and then potentially lap 20 or 21. I think that's the optimum strategy for the teams. So it's interesting to see the such like RickeeyC, as you say, losing ground to the cars ahead, and I think that's because he had to pit a lap earlier than his teammate Randy, who looks like he's got fresh enough tyres as he's now come to the outside of TRL MoNsTeR towards the hairpin. He's caught MoNsTeR, an absolute treat in these last few laps. MoNsTeR completely struggling on his tyres. Look at the traction he's getting out of that hairpin. Randy's absolutely gone, and I wouldn't be surprised if MoNsTeR comes into the pits, Randy into the pits as well, locking up. MoNsTeR just about managing to get into the pits safely, but wow, MoNsTER's car definitely hit the cliff in terms of tyre wear, and they're now going to be forced into a 8-lap stint at the end of this race, and so is Matty into the pits as well for a fresh set of prime tyres. They shouldn't be too pushed unless, well, maybe the last lap will be quite tricky, I'm sure, but it'll be the same for all of these drivers, and the ones that have carried on for another lap probably will lose a few seconds to the cars that are coming out on fresh tyres. And who's that? That is Crookie. Who is that? Yeah, that is Crookie that's come out ahead of MoNsTeR, but he has gone a lap. Oh gosh, I'm not going to say that in a minute. Crookie looking at the inside of Randy, who's on colder tyres. Slight contact now between the two side pods. And is Crookie going to look around the outside? This is crucial for him if he wants to try and make this undercut work. Randy just about managing to stay ahead of Crookie. But sorry, yes, Crookie's undercut, it looks like it worked quite well as he's stayed out ahead of MoNsTeR and is right on the back of Randy. But throughout the rest of this stint, I wouldn't be surprised if Crookie loses a bit of pace and probably comes under pressure from his teammate. Yeah, the undercut certainly worked a treat for Crookie. He's gained loads of time on his teammate. He was actually quite far behind before the pit stop, I think. But Matt is now making his way through on the fresh tyres, passing Jason, and now has Contadins ahead of him. Both of those obviously on the very worn tyres. As Noble now, the race leader, comes into the pit lane. He obviously has that massive gap, so I wouldn't expect Matty to be near him by doing the undercut, but you never know. Noble might have had a horrible in-lap. But now, ooh, Matty looking around the outside of the Contadins, and now he switches back to the inside. Contadins didn't leave him much room there, but just about enough to avoid an incident. And now Contadins comes into the pit lane as Noble comes out of the pit lane on the other side. Where is Matty? Yeah, he's only halfway down the main straight, so not close enough, I'm afraid. As we got a double pit lane thingy going on there. The Red Bull with a better stop than McLaren. And there is RickeeyC actually. He's now just ahead of Fisi. So he's lost loads of time on the previous lap on the worn tyres. He's catching up to quite a bit. So he's now right at the back of Ricky. And now his teammate Trace is coming at the end of the straight. Obviously he pitted a lap earlier. And he's now side by side as we go into turn 2. Ooh, a bit of contact there as well. Trace kind of turned into the side of Fisi, but no harm done. And Trace with a good exit. Fisi is choosing not to use any curse to let Trace just streak clear and into 7th place. But it's quite interesting how much time RickeeyC lost, because he had 5-6 seconds worth of a gap before these the final pit stops started. But he's now pretty much a battle for 6th place because Ricky dropped so far back. So I don't know. What do you think, Matty? Who will take 6th place? Well, I think it will be really who has the fresher tyres, because they'll have the most amount of pace available to them. So I wouldn't be surprised if Fisi would come back towards his teammate and potentially Ricky as well, depending on how well Ricky drives. But I'm sure Ricky's just trying to get some solid points after a disastrous mistake last time out in Malaysia, going onto the option tyres rather than the primes for his final stint, which meant he had to do 2 or 3 laps on completely worn option tyres, and it was like driving on ice as MoNsTeR looking up the inside and overtaking his teammate Crookie. Or has he? Crookie still looking up the inside towards the final corner. These two battling very hard indeed. Crookie corner cutting slightly to take the position back. I wouldn't be surprised if the stewards may have something to say about that, but MoNsTeR having to settle back down into 5th place, but maybe because they're teammates there will be nothing said. We shall see. There's 6 laps to go as Randy sets the fastest lap of a 35.8 and trying to pull away from these two Toro Rossos, but MoNsTeR looking very fiery indeed. However, he did pit quite well. I think he's actually, no, Crookie pitted a lap earlier than MoNsTeR, I think, so yeah. Crookie just doing well to stay ahead of his teammates. MoNsTeR getting very aggressive under the brakes, pretty much missing his braking point, I'm pretty sure. Macaulay setting a 35.1, so I'm sure he is probably on the option tyres trying to do a good final stint. As Matty in the Williams now in 2nd place, he's got a gap ahead of him and a gap behind, so looks like he's going to be settling for 2nd place here today. He's on a purple lap at the moment, just over a 10th up on his previous lap, 6.9 seconds behind Noble at the moment. And coming through this very tricky long right-hander, you're always searching for the traction, as you will probably see with MoNsTeR as well. Is he going to lose his back end? Slightly, yes he is. There you go, there's the correction. And it's just so hard to find the rear grip, as MoNsTeR now getting a much better run on Crookie, and he's going to fly past Crookie. Looks like, did he have DRS as well? It looks like he potentially did.
I'm not
too sure. Maybe I'm just daydreaming about that DRS opening. But anyway, MoNsTER up the inside and overtaking Crookie for 4th place once again. Crookie can't get back at him this time, it looks like, as the arrow has disappeared. So Crookie having to settle now down into 5th place. Noble sets a 34.7. Brilliant lap from him. So he's just showing how much pace he has in the tank. As Fisi coming around the final corner, the bollard gone once again. So another driver probably absolutely destroying that last corner. But Fisi losing a little bit of touch with his teammate Trace, as Contadins now in 10th place, the final points paying position in the Sauber, going defensive to Jason, who's got a brilliant run with that DRS. Is he going to look to the outside? Yes, he is. Here he comes. Oh, Contadins going into the braking zone and turning left, which is very similar to what he did to Matty as well. So I'm not too sure if Contadins has got something wrong with his wheel, but running wide through the hairpin and almost making contact with Jason. Doing a very strange turning left into the corner, and he's also hit the bollard and into the wall. Hasn't lost any front wing, but lost a lot of time trying to find the traction once again. But Contadins not having a very fine lap just there.
No, that was a very scruffy lap from, well, last 2 corners at least from Contadins, who pretty much locked all of his tyres going into the hairpin, and then went through the bollard and into the wall on the front corner. So he will be pretty frustrated with himself. And I'm sure Fisi will be quite frustrated as well at the moment, because he's sitting there 2 seconds behind Trace, who he was pretty much equal pace with before. So I don't think he'll be really catching Trace, and it's quite frustrating that he's just not close enough to be within that DRS zone, which obviously Trace will have on Ricky ahead. So Trace with a slight advantage over his teammate because of that. It'll be interesting to see if Trace can actually pass Ricky. Because it looked like it was very close as they went towards us, the straight, but now we're on the next lap. It's actually the penultimate lap, so it's very close. This race has just flown by, hasn't it? And MoNsTER once again struggling through that long right-hander, just the back end just wanting to step out as Noble comes around the final corner to start the final lap of this race. And let's see if we can switch back to MoNsTER to see if he was close enough to Randy, and he was not. So Randy will be ahead in the battle for 3rd place as they enter the final lap. And yeah, once again just struggling to control the wheel spin. And I can't remember which of those they pitted at the same time, didn't they? So they're at the same tyres and 1 lap to battle it out for 3rd place.
Yeah, they're both on the same same amount of laps they've had on these prime tyres, and it is the final lap of the race. So unfortunately we don't have a fight for the lead because Noble has gone and streaked off away from his teammate, but we've got a battle for 3rd place and potentially 5th as well, as it looks like Crookie, as I said, because he pitted a lap earlier than MoNsTER and Randy, and you saw how much MoNsTER was struggling on his tyres. Crookie now probably going to come under pressure from Ricky, who has Trace in hot pursuit as well, so there could be a fight for 5th place. as Ricky gaining quite a bit into the braking zone. Crookie running wide, so understeering with these tyres. Fisi now catching up slightly to Trace, 1.8 seconds, but mate, it's probably not going to be enough as it is the final lap. MoNsTeR right behind Randy now. He's going to have DRS coming onto the final straight. MoNsTeR taking a very tight line through that double left-hander as Ricky now right behind Crookie. Surely he's going to get this 5th place and take it away from the Toro Rosso driver as MoNsTeR now coming on to the nearly the back straight. He's got to go through that very long right-hander. It's almost 4. It's another 4-way horse for 5th place. Almost again. Fisi on those fresher tyres is now catching the 3 ahead, and MoNsTeR now is going to have DRS and fly past Randy, almost lagging into his front wing there. But Ricky now is going to get past Crookie by the looks of things. Noble takes the victory. A brilliant race from him. Green getting squeezed.
And we have a little bit of technical difficulties with Matty at the moment, apologies for that, but it looks like RickeeyC could have the inside Trace and Crookie going to the final corner, and now it looks like Matty's back, so take us through the final corner, Matt.
Trace getting squeezed out by Crookie, but Trace is now going to have the inside line for the final corner. I'm choking because I'm losing my rag, and now Fisi's going past Crookie. Is he going to get his teammate as well? No, he's not. Wow, what a finish, Fisi.
Yeah, an incredible finish. Pretty much a 3-way battle on the final lap for 6th place. And the contadins coming down for the unlucky 11th place, so no points for him. But that was quite an incredible finish in the midfield line. Obviously we didn't see, because of all that battling, we didn't see that Williams drivers crossing the line, but they came ahead, came home in P1 and P2, as we've done earlier in the season as well. And it has the replay of MoNsTeR going past Randy. A straightforward forward DRS move in the end, but MoNsTER, we were very happy with that to salvage podium position from this race, because it looks like it's...
Sorry, Fisi, that Randy, as you probably saw in that replay, didn't actually use any curves. I was a bit, because he was actually giving back the place to MoNsTER, who he felt that he actually illegally overtook him earlier on in the race or something, so that's why he didn't defend as hard as he probably could. But Crookie very, very aggressive on the defence down the straight, and causing Ricky to lose a bit of straight line speed, and here's the replay of Fisi getting past Crookie as well. So yeah, interesting race, well, an interesting last lap at least, as Noble takes the victory. As you can see, hands in the air, 3 wins out of 3 for him in Season 7. And now we're going to head to the classification after 28 laps. Noble 2999 taking the victory once again from his teammate, 10.6 seconds in the end that was. So I think Matty probably gave up after all of his woes that he had in the middle part of that race. MoNsTER finishing in 3rd place ahead of Randy, 4 tenths there, with RickeeyC coming home in 5th place, stealing that from Crookie right at the end, with Trace also gaining a place, and Fisi in 6th and 7th on that final lap for Red Bull. Brilliant result for them, 14 points for Red Bull. Crookie finishing in 8th after his tyres falling off the cliff. Jason 97 F1 in 9th place, a brilliant drive from him. We saw some brilliant, well, very aggressive but fair racing from him, with TRL Qualy rounding up the top 10, so he gets a point as well. And Constant's just missing out in 11th place, with the rest of the drivers, IPRS Callum, Maisie CZ, TRL Schumacher not finishing, with Big Shot disqualified after crashing his car out, so not finishing as well, with Ryan 83 the only one who did not start. Big Shot player setting the fastest lap, but then proceeded to wreck his car, so we can only assume that 34.1 was set on option tyres. As the Drivers' Championship, as you can see, Noble 2909 out in front with 75 points, and Fisi is looking pretty daunting.
Yeah, daunting for Noble at the moment. He's got that gap in the championship that he would have wanted, but again, Matty and MoNsTER, like last season, having a right scrap for 2nd place. They're equal on points in that battle, and Random X360 not too far behind as well. And there's an amazing battle in the midfield with Trace92, RickeeyC, Fisifan and Crookie in the battle for 5th, only separated by 5 points there. And then you have Qualy currently in 9th place, and then the contadins, Callum and Jason, who scored his first F1 points today. So good job to him. 3 drivers who haven't scored any points yet and are therefore currently sitting in the relegation zone, which is Ryan, TRL Schumacher, and what's the last guy?
It was Maisie.
That was Maisie.
Yeah. And yeah, oh, sorry, the transitions are just going by, aren't they? Constructors' Championship, Williams streaking away already, almost having doubled the amount of points as any other constructors, with 123 points. Toro Rosso 62 points, just ahead of McLaren, 5 points separated those two, with Red Bull in with 34 points in a solid 4th place, and the rest of the drivers or the teams I can't actually see. But anyway, the next race is Bahrain. We're going to have a week break, so the 24th is when that race will commence. Thank you very much, Fisi, for commentating with me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, no worries. It's been surprisingly exciting to be here in the commentary booth for the first time for ARL F1. So maybe I'll see you again here at some point. But I'm sure Scott will be back next week. So until next week, guys, goodbye.
I hope you guys enjoyed the coverage, and we'll see you next week at the Bahrain Grand Prix. Bye bye.